thought
And
I
there's
just hit
live
it.
captioning for everybody. If I enabled it, so.
Oh, good. Okay. It says I've started recording, so I think we're good to go, and hopefully I didn't screw something up with that in that regard. Well, welcome everyone to our fall meeting for AME50, the Standing Committee on Accessible Transportation and Mobility. This meeting is for both members and friends of the committee, so hopefully we'll get more folks that are able to come in. Looks like they're continuing now, but basically Judy and I thought it'd be good to have a meeting in between when we last met as a larger group in the summer and the upcoming committee meeting that will be occurring at the TRB annual meeting in January, of course, to update everyone on our progress with certain activities, as well as get your thoughts and input for some things that we want to do with those activities as well. So that's really the purpose of today, and we have an hour and a half, but we'll see how much time we need with each of these things and updates. I'm one of the co-chairs, of course, Todd Hansen. I am in an office setting currently, and I have a maroon polo shirt for my Texas A&M school colors, and a beard and glasses, and currently wearing a headset right now, and I'm a white male. And Judy?
Hi, everybody. Judy Shanley. I'm also co-chair of AME50. I am a white female with brown hair, middle-aged, and I am wearing a red blouse today, and I'm excited to talk with you all. So thanks for attending.
All right, and just to show our full rundown of the agenda after this, up next, we're going to hear a little bit more about the Transit DRT conference we were chatting a little bit about as people were joining from last week. I'll give an update on the call for papers and the call for posters that our committee has received from those papers and abstracts so far, and talk about the process that we'll do for evaluating those and answer any questions that you have about that, especially in relation to the annual meeting. We'll get an update on what we've been working on with our communications co-chairs, and I saw Susan is here to attend and provide an update there. Then we have a couple things we want to particularly solicit information on. One is the call for webinar submissions from TRB that they I think recently issued, and talk about that opportunity and get some ideas and conversation going for how you could potentially contribute a submission with the support of the committee for that. I'll give an update on where we are with the TR News special issue that we're working on with AP055, the Rural Transportation Committee. And then we'll talk about all things with the annual meeting and some activities that we want to do with there. So, and then at the end, we'll save some time for any other things that we didn't mention as part of this agenda, as well as wrap up. I saw a couple people have signed in, if you will, in the chat. So if you're able to, you can click on the chat window in Teams and go ahead and put your name and organization, just so we have that for our record of attendance. And just familiar ground rules for the conversation of our meetings, of course. Make sure, if you can, to mute your line when you're not speaking. Everyone speaks one at a time. There should be a raised hand feature. There is in Teams. If you click on the reactions button on for me, it's the top banner, the reaction, there's a raise hand, and to speak if you need to, and so we can recognize your hand there. You can also click on the other emoji reactions that are there. If Judy or I say anything that's particularly good or funny, you can laugh at it with the reactions right there. And good
stuff.
Yeah. And of course, if you're having a technical issue, we can see if we can solve it. We have the chat feature as well if you're unable to use your audio or speak. And then, as always with our committee, and we do a good job of this as AME50, but be open to different ideas and perspectives on some of the things that we're talking about today. So it doesn't look like, as I have the chat window, everyone's signing in, and I don't see anyone with technical issues so far, so I'll keep monitoring that. And then while I do that, I'll hand it over to Judy to do some conference review of TransEd.
Sure. Thank you, Todd. And thank you all of you again for participating in this. Jeanette Jimenez and I and Steve Yaffe were the co-chairs of this year's TransEd DRT conference. You likely were aware that this year we combined our conference with the demand response transit conference. And I think overall, I hope many of you participated. I recognize many names here as presenters and moderators, and thank you all for that. Kip Mitchell was our program chair, and he did a fabulous job of ensuring diversity of content, diversity of geographies, diversity of professional disciplines, which I think is really important to the topic of accessibility, mobility. We had on Monday, which was the workshop day, TRB told us that there were 272 people registered, which is actually a very good number for a virtual conference. And I would imagine that at the end of the week, there might have been more. We haven't gotten the evaluation feedback yet from TRB. For those of you that participated, I hope you'll take time to complete the evaluation. And if you haven't received it, I'm suspecting that TRB will send it out again once the recordings are available. But please, if you have any feedback that you'd rather talk with us about, send me a note. I love any feedback. We're already thinking about the next TransEd conference, and we want to really learn from our experience in this particular event, not only in terms of planning, but in terms of the content. We don't know where the next TransEd conference is going to be. We are pushing to have an international event. Our expectation that it'll be somewhere around the world, and we've had some interest from countries that have expressed interest in organizing the event. We're organizing a small planning committee just for us to get some input from members and friends. And so if you have any interest in being part of that committee, please send me a note, and we'll start collecting feedback and presenting ideas to TRB. And one of the questions that has come up is, you likely know that TRB has had a big role this year in carrying out the conference. They wanted to have a bigger role in TransEd conferences, and their interest is in maintaining that role. Internationally, though, not quite sure whether they are able to have such a large role internationally. That's something we've got to work out. They are having a new CEO. Neil Pedersen is retiring from TRB, and many of the decisions regarding the conferences is his domain. So we can't. I think Bill Anderson and Gary Jenkins, who have been our point person, they were fabulous. I don't think they can make any decisions until they hire a new CEO. So we're kind of stuck right now in terms of what is going to happen in the next event. But I think we at least could be talking amongst ourselves and collating ideas to be able to present to TransEd when the time is right. So thank you for all of you who were part of the planning committee. We'll be sending notes out. Thank you for those of you who were presenters and moderators and moderator assistants. The feedback I got briefly was that it was really positive and a great event. So we couldn't have done it without all of you. So thank you to all of you. Anybody have any questions?
And thanks, Sarah, in the chat for indicating your interest.
Oh, good. Okay.
We have one interested person already. That's a good start.
Good. Thank you. All right. I'm not saying you can always contact me offline if you're interested in participating or if you have any feedback. So thanks. Thanks, Todd. Done with my report.
Sure. All right, so Chungba, I know, is on the road. I don't think he was able to call in, so I can provide an update on his behalf. I'm just scanning the list to make sure. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's on. So I'll go ahead and give this update on the papers as well as the posters. And just from what I've seen, and Chungbo's, I will say, has done a great job so far. His first time around as our committee paper review coordinator, in terms of organizing and assigning the papers that we received to different reviewers and keeping up with people that needed some encouragement to help get their reviews in. So that's, I want to give kudos to Chungbo while he's not here, and then I'll surely give him kudos again during our next meeting together as well, once we have our final paper selected. But essentially, just a quick summary on what we did get. We had 31 total papers assigned to our committee by TRB. And most of our papers have 3 or more reviews, which is good. The minimum for TRB is only a couple of years ago they lowered the minimum to only 2, but we try to shoot for having 3 or 4 at least to make sure we have a good amount of expertise and different perspectives with these papers. So again, Chungbo has done a good job with getting different reviewers and high enough amount of reviewers assigned to each paper with that. So I'm going to continue to the next couple slides, and then I'll go back because Chungpo actually put together these word clouds on topics that we received papers about. So, with the abstracts, this is just word clouds from the abstract titles itself. Which some of the larger words, are to be expected in terms of accessibility, disability, older adult. I do think we've in the past couple of years gotten from what I've seen, more papers that are specifically looking at topics for older adults and not necessarily general disabilities sort of studies. And so that's good to see some papers that are looking at that particular topic as well. And then you can see also we have some papers on public transit, paratransit, as well as different types of disabilities and some of these topics as well with that. And the other things that we can see here, I think there's interesting abstract title on extreme temperature, for instance, or household income, and those sorts of things. So good amount of papers with those sorts of things. Some of the classifications that we used to apply these papers from people that were interested in reviewing. If you'll recall, we had a poll on data analysis and statistics, qualitative analysis, on-demand mobility and technology, public transit and shared mobility, and then pedestrian accessibility and trip planning. Those were kind of categories that we had people respond to what their expertise might be in. That seemed to be pretty effective, though we might, Chungbo and I have talked about some ideas to revisit maybe either some of those categories or even some how we assign papers based on that expertise. And I think we'll talk more at the general meeting about from the perspective of reviewers and members of the committee in particular, what might be some more effective ways to match people to given expertise. This is another word cloud. This is based on the titles of the papers themselves rather than the abstract content, and you can see kind of more of the same. I wasn't able to make this larger from the image, but a lot of the big words are to be expected, and then we have deep learning, reduced mobility, case study is part of the titles, and then some other topics within here as well that get to whatever the research was looking at. So we'll provide this PowerPoint after the meeting, I'm sure, on our website or whatnot. And but the word clouds were kind of just help get an idea of what we received. Chungbo did note that our manuscript pool had 6 papers that addressed either I get he has these together, either the COVID-19 pandemic or climate change with that. And so I think we particularly expected to receive some papers about effects of the pandemic, of course, and I'm sure we will continue to into the next year as well. And then he also noted that many manuscripts applied strong regional or contextual constraints in their formulation to talk about lessons learned from those different contextual scenarios. So that's what I have in terms of the papers and what we will be doing together, Chungbo and I. We're actually meeting tomorrow to discuss papers for the actual scores and results for the papers so that we can make selections for what will be included in the committee's poster session at TRB. For those of you may recall or may not be familiar, we get one general poster session, at least in the past few years and continuing to this year. We get one general poster session for our committee, which are papers that we accept for presentation will be included in. And that will also include potentially some separate posters, which I'll talk about in the next section, that aren't associated with papers. We will accept in total about 60% is the target we can recommend or accept or recommend papers for that presentation. And so, there's usually some hard choices and cuts that we have to make as part of that, but that's part of the review process and TRB's way to ensure that there's space for all the committees to be able to, have ample presentation space during that poster session. We'll also look at for the papers that were submitted for consideration of both presentation and publication. Separately, for those papers that are good or high scoring that also have the publication consideration, we'll take a look at that as well and work with Judy and the other co-chairs of the committee to look at those publication papers and see if there are a couple strong ones that we might recommend. I think in the past few years, we've usually recommended 1 or 2 papers for publication consideration. So that's really more the cream of the crop, as the expression goes, that will be submitted for consideration. I'll go next to
Todd, can I just say something about these, the
sure.
topical areas? One of the things that I think is important to our committee is to inform TRB regarding the progress of our strategic plan. You might remember during the last meeting, we shared the triennial strategic plan. And so one thing we plan upon doing is looking back at the plan and ensuring that the topics that have been included in TRB or were accepted align with the particular activities inherent in the strategic plan. We want to be able to show to TRB that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And one way to do that is show the content of all of our forums. So the content of TransEd, the content of our publications, content of our conference presentations, all align with the activities in the strategic plan. So if any of you have any ideas regarding that, we would welcome that. But I think we want to demonstrate to TRB that we're into performance measurement and continuous improvement. Thanks, Todd.
That's a great point, Judy, and maybe we can do that annual meeting, if we can. That's something we can provide some perspective of if we have time to prepare that, in terms of linkages to the strategic plan from these papers.
Great
Yeah.
idea. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so along with that, we also, as you'll recall, from some emails we sent out, we also separately did a call for posters, to encourage, essentially, either research in progress or maybe, things that are, less explicitly researched, but more, application of certain, services or technologies or, things of that nature to help, um, improve accessibility or mobility for, certain populations. We also did a call for posters, that I think we issued, shortly after, sometime in August. We issued shortly after the paper, submittal deadline, following along the same, strategic areas that we had in our call for papers, for people to address, key topics that we received there. We had, I was just looking at it briefly this morning because we're going to consider this together with, the papers that we received. We had 11, total posters, abstracts received, which is actually higher than, the last couple of years. I think last year we had 5, just from the top of my head, and that's so. Thank you for, I recognize some names, submitting posters there. Thank you for submitting your abstracts, and I can see that some of the topics, follow similar, things that, Chungbo was showing in the word clouds in terms of, um, different, types of modal considerations. I see a couple on, autonomous vehicles, which is always a topic we're interested in, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, pedestrian, accessibility, and, things of that nature. So that's going to be part of, again, the decision making we'll have for presentation at the conference. One of the things we will have some priority, given to the papers that we received, just in terms of those, being more, thorough submissions and, providing the research with that. So any highly reviewed, highly scored, papers will be given priority as part of the session, because we have to, consider 60% of our total submissions between the papers and the poster abstracts. So not all of the posters that we received will be poster abstracts we received, I should say, will be a part of the poster session. So just keep that in mind, and we'll probably try to, highlight from the abstracts that you submitted some key topics that, to what Judy was saying, are addressing our strategic areas, but maybe we didn't have in the papers we received, and that, might be a way for, that inclusion of some of those topics. So that'll be the poster between the papers and this poster call. Well, will be in the poster session, which we'll talk about later as part of the TRB upcoming annual meeting, planning. But any, questions on that? I'm sure once we get to the annual meeting, we'll have a little more information on, the ones, selected and key topic areas. But just in terms of a preview, any questions for now? I saw someone left a comment. Aaron, thanks for that comment. Glad the match system was better than, in previous years, even though I was in charge in previous years of the match system. But, I'm glad it's improved from. I'm just kidding. From when I was, doing it myself. So yeah, Chungba did a great job, like I was saying. So glad to hear that. All right. Well, I will turn it next to Susan for our communications update.
Thanks, Todd. Just very quickly, some of the new things we're planning are different ways of better communicating with the committee. So we plan to send out quarterly newsletters. We sent one out to members and friends in July. planning the next one for mid-October, then one in January following the annual meeting, and another in April. So AME friends and members are going to be welcome to contribute content to our newsletter, but we'll put up some guidelines. Information such as the content has to be aligned with the mission and activities of AME50. And anybody wishing to submit content needs to be able to articulate the connection between their content and that mission. It's not going to be a forum to share information about commercial products or revenue generating services. And the content really should also appeal to a range of AME50 members. So this is across different professional disciplines, geographies, etc. And the AME50 leadership will be making decisions regarding the content that will be included based on the relevance and appropriateness of the content to our members and the space that we have available. So we'll put this information up on our website, and because this is something new, we may expand or change it a little bit as we go. And maybe what I'll do is leap into the website part next because they're a little bit connected when I talk about the newsletter. So I can take questions about both. Oh, is Subash here? He's not here with us, is he? Okay, I thought I might have heard something.
I didn't see him.
No, okay. Well, my co-chair for the communication committee, Subash, he's taken on the management of the website and he's made some improvements. So one of the things he's done is create a new section on committee meetings that will have minutes of all of our AME50 meetings. Another thing he's done is put up a what's new page or section, not really a page, I guess, and it's been created to just have any new developments or additions to our content so anyone can quickly find something new that's been added without going through the whole website to search for it. For example, right now it's got the call for posters for the annual meeting. Maybe that's not so new, but that was the newest thing we put up there. And then we have another section called newsletter. So that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We'll do a mail out to all friends and members of AME50, but we'll also post them on the newsletter page. We'll add the guidelines I spoke about earlier to the page as well. And I can make sure that my contact details are added there as well. So anybody wanting to submit content can reach out to me and the committee will, discuss as needed and get back to you about that. The other thing that Subash has done is he's just updated the landing page or the homepage of the website just to have a snapshot to the various committee announcements. The idea is to make it more user-friendly, but of course, we welcome feedback on the new layout. If there's anything anyone finds difficult to access or improvements that could be made, please let us know. And then finally, there's a section on useful links, and that's been on the website for a while, but it's been updated with more recent content. So again, if you think you have anything relevant that could be useful under the links, please let us know, and we'll add that as well. That's
And
really
Susan,
all I have. Unless there's any questions, go ahead.
Susan, I know we have a question from Jeanette. I was gonna ask if it would be helpful, I know for me to put the website up to show anything that's not in the screen grab image.
Yeah, certainly. That would be
Here, I'll
great.
go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And
we're also planning upon posting some content from our conference, particularly the Bell Awards. We want to get some national recognition for the 2 recipients this year and the others that we honored. So we'll be posting information about those awards. Jeanette, did you have a question?
Yes, I was thinking about the regional videos that they were shown at Transit. I don't know if if it would be good that we include this in the website. So
great idea.
If that's okay, then I don't know, to whom should I send the link of the videos?
You could send them to Sebash and copy Todd and I, just so we know. We need to give him some context since he's not at this meeting. And we have to, I think what we have to do is update this page that you're looking at right now with TransEd 2022. And so that's likely the place it'll appear. But if you have any thinking about where you want it to appear in the website, I think it makes sense to have it appear there, but
yeah. That's a great idea.
Okay, so I will get in touch
please.
with Subash.
Perfect. Yep.
That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll update this whole TransEd conferences page. And then this is under committee resources. We have a useful links tab that pops up, and this is to what Susan was speaking to. You can see descriptions and links for these organizations here. And then this is the newsletter. So this is our last newsletter, but we'll update this page, of course. And then in our committee meeting section is where we'll put the PowerPoints and recordings. But yes, I want to give kudos to both Susan and Sebash for helping update everything and making it more user-friendly and all that. So just in the limited time they've been the communications chair so far, I think these have been really helpful.
Thanks. And I will say it's a work in progress, so so it'll continue, and your feedback is welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for all your work.
All right. If there are no other questions for Susan, then we'll go to TRB webinars. So I think this is me again. So we wanted to provide some information about this recent announcement, which I think this, Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was just an announcement to the co-chairs, or did this go out TRB wide?
I think it went out TRB.
It went out.
I think so.
Okay. Too many emails these days to keep straight in the head. So you might have seen this then in terms of this information, but TRB recently announced, basically a kind of a call for webinar submittals that are, as the bottom bullet point says, due by November 1st for their next webinar scheduling period, which will be January to the end of April of next year. And what they're looking for with this as part of the submittal is really support from committee support for important webinar topics. And like work that are particularly it's ongoing and work with various initiatives and projects and key topics, like Judy was saying earlier, with our committee. So some of the other guidelines for this should be, expect about a 1.5 hour webinar format with 2 or 3 presenters, and that email, which we can forward to anyone who didn't get it, has some more of the requirements for, what would be expected in terms of the submittal. And you have to, of course, provide an abstract and format, who the speakers would be. This is just speaking from a previous webinar I was involved with, as well as expected outcomes and those sorts of things, similar to how you would with a session or workshop proposal sort of thing. And the other part of this is they do require that a proposed webinar is reviewed and approved by one of the chairs of the committee, so Judy or myself, of course, and we would look at it together. So if you have an idea or ideas for webinar submittals that you want to run by Judy and myself before it, please feel free to reach out to us about it. And I'd also want to stop here and hear if anyone has any particular ideas that they think would be important to include, particularly if we can think of or if you can think, or we can think as a group of some webinar opportunities that could involve some different but related presentations on research that's going on with our committee members and friends, and that to TRB's goal and the third bullet point here, addressing different professional demographic and geographic perspectives. They want to see that as part of the webinar, so it's not just focusing on one place and one project, necessarily is my interpretation of that. So we just wanted to highlight this opportunity, particularly since it's a little more than a month away to the deadline, in order to be able to have a webinar for the next 4 months as part of that slotting and scheduling. Of course, there will be other webinar opportunities in the future, but part of our committee goals for showcasing research is to be able to disseminate information in this format, of course. So I'll stop talking for now. Any questions or comments or ideas about webinar opportunities?
I think TRB, this is Judy, I think TRB is particularly interested in content from our committee because we are so international in the work that we do. And there are many committees that don't have the reach and the scope that we do. So that's appealing to them. And also with the, big focus on diversity and equity and access, that's right in line with our committee, and it's in line with TRB's overall mission. So please consider submitting a topical idea for a webinar. We did 2 last year. Todd, I think, was involved in one. I was involved in planning another. So if you need any support, you'll have it from us.
Okay. Well, yeah, reach out to us, like we were saying, if you think of something. Oh, I see a hand raised from Annabella.
Okay, thank you. There's a question I'm wondering for years. I started talking about that a few years ago. Then, in 2020, when I've seen the changes of the structure for the committees, I thought that, oh, it's good. We will start talking about the importance of resilience and sustainability on transport for all. So I'm raising the question about how we don't hear talking about that. How? Why? I think this is important. And I'm available to prepare some 3 or 4 slides just to start a discussion about that in a next meeting. Yes,
Annabella, if you think that you want to submit a webinar topic on that, certainly you're welcome to do that. And a publication, I know there was some discussion on resilience in some of the Trans Ed sessions that at least I participated in. But if you think we should elevate it in terms of having a webinar or some sort of publication, please feel free to suggest that and a forum that you feel it's best aligned with.
But previous to that decision, I should search for speakers about the topic. And I know a lot of people talking about resilience, but in a different context. A different context. So the most known author about resilience is Nagel. He's a Danish guy, a professor at the university. And he talks about resilience as a new approach to safety management in companies. And it is a bit complicated, and most people use that, and they don't understand the meaning of everything.
Yeah, and if there's another committee, Annabella, that you think that we could partner with that may also focus on, that would, if you want to include any of those members in a webinar proposal, that would be great. TRB would love that as well.
For a webinar is to find people, I will try to find people to apply to the context of our committee.
Yep.
Talking about the safety of space agent or just
Judy,
to fit the same context. I will look for that.
Okay, and Annabelle, I'll follow up with you on that point to make sure we support with any questions or ideas on furthering that resilience and sustainability topic for this. I think the point Judy said about with this is good for that topic as well as others, that as with anything, TRB likes to see, any like synergies or collaborations between different committees, where there's proper overlap, is a good way, to have, support. If we have support from not just one committee, but multiple committees for something, that helps move things up to the top, of course. Yeah. And the other, Judy, you mentioned, I don't know if this is a something that would fit the webinar opportunity, but maybe since you mentioned that maybe there's, either for some sessions that were particularly during Transit that were highly rated or highly attended that got good response or something like that. Maybe there's like a one of those sessions that could be kind of transfigured into a webinar format with those people to try and reach a broader audience with it. I don't know if that's maybe a potential avenue for this too.
Yeah, good idea.
There is another issue. It's about risk taking, because most of people with a mobility impairment must take risks to perform and to realize their mobility needs. Those risk taking is an important issue.
Yep. And Annabella, Stephen Wong in the chat indicated that AME50 Community Resources and Impact is doing pioneering work in the field of resilience, mostly related to emergency planning. But he is sharing some resources with you. So note that what he's saying.
Okay. Thanks, Annabella, for those ideas that we can follow up on with that. Another thing we want to give and provide an update on, which Annabelle is also involved with one of our article teams for this, is the upcoming for next year, the TR News special issue that we've mentioned at previous meetings, and that Judy and I and Jill Haug with AP055 have been working together with the TRB editor to help with the planning of this and determine the article teams for topics, as well as which articles would slot into different links for the magazine. So if you can see the slide, which we'll share after the meeting, of course, we ended up with 9 topics. I think previously in our previous meeting, I was looking back, we had 8 of these on the list, and then we added a topic number 6 here on or we added number 9 for access to healthy foods and healthcare issues that impact rural areas and individuals with disabilities. From the previous list we shared, we also made some clarifications to some of the other topics, like on number 6 on universal mobility principles in transportation planning and service delivery. We added clarification on that to be on the ground and in the air, since of course, and you'll recall this from some of our transit sessions as well, that accessibility on aircraft is getting more attention, rightfully so, now as a key topic area for improvements in accessibility with that. But a lot of the other topics are kind of how we presented previously. We did also make designations for what is a feature article, quote feature article, versus a quote mini feature article. And these are basically just the article links that will be included in the magazine, since there's a certain word count that they are trying to meet. Since we have so many great topics, a lot of them will be many feature articles, which are about 1,500 words approximately. And then we have 2 feature articles that are 2,500 words. One will be the impact of mobility and transportation innovation for individuals with disabilities and older adults in rural and urban areas. So that'll be a big topic there. And then that aforementioned topic on universal mobility principles, number 6, will be our other feature article. As far as next steps for this, Judy and I and Jill Haug, respectively, we each have 3 of these topics that we are the key contact and organizer for. We're reaching out and organizing the conversation for the teams to fill out the outline and get going with the writing for these topics. Do I have another slide on this? I'm speaking from memory. Aha. So essentially that work is continuing with the first drafts will be aiming to be completed by December 1st. For people that are involved with the author teams themselves, there's a meeting next week on Thursday, September 29th, that will go into more detail about the process and timeline with that. So we're having that meeting for those that can attend, which we I think we sent out that invitation already. If you didn't get it and you're on an author team, let me know and I'll forward it to you. And then again, for those involved, there'll be more information there, as well as through separate team meetings that with either Judy or myself or Jill, depending on who you're involved with. So any questions on that? And I think a lot of those questions will be, if you're writing, will be answered next week. But for those that are not involved, any questions on where we are with the special issue?
And this is Judy. Just so you all know, this is a very conversational kind of issue. It's a practical, non-researchery kind of publication that TRB wants. So they're wanting pictures to complement the text. They're expecting practical strategies that can be replicated. Todd, are we still looking for reviewers?
I think
for any of these?
Sorry, I'm not on mute. Okay. I think if you are interested in being a reviewer, that's a great point, Judy. Let me know. And what that will be is helping to review the draft articles and make comments and suggested edits to what each of the author teams are doing. So we have a couple people. If you already indicated to me previously that you were interested, I have that down. But if you haven't and you are interested in being a reviewer and you're not on a author team already, reach out to me about that so I can add you to that list. And when that would your time for that would be essentially after December 1st. And it would go into I think December, January, and February in terms of being able to provide a review and feedback to each of the whichever articles you're assigned to. So I definitely welcome anyone who wants to help out in that way too. And Lemmy, I saw a comment from Abby on incorporating that that topic into topic 4. I'll make sure of that. That's a great point on weather being a consideration for that topic. Thank you for that. Okay. Well, let me know if you do want to be a reviewer, and if we make a determination we need some more, we might send out an email asking people to volunteer. But otherwise, we'll move on to talking about the upcoming annual meeting. So I can start, Judy, and then you can fill in on this. I think we mentioned at the top that the registration for the annual meeting just opened, and so of course, if you're able to safely attend the meeting, it's going to be in person again this January. We will, as part of having our upcoming general meeting, like we did last year, have a virtual connection. I think as a committee, we do want to do that again to make sure that people that aren't able to attend, whether due to travel or safety or ability reasons, we want to have that virtual connection for the annual committee meeting. That's not a TRB official thing, but more something we would just set up ourselves in the room. But I think it worked very well last year for people that were able to remote into that discussion. So we'll of course have that session. One of the things that Judy and I were proposing as well, and we'd be interested in any feedback or people again asking for volunteers, of course, is part of the general committee meeting having a research showcase for committee members to make brief 5 to 6 minute presentations on your accessibility research or projects. And so that way, part of a good chunk of our meeting could be dedicated to those types of presentations. Of course, we've had in the general meeting before, selected special presentations, but we're thinking kind of a briefer presentation period with or briefer presentations together in this showcase period would be a good way to have a lot of different things shown potentially if we get enough interest with that. And of course, other committees, we're kind of inspired by some of the things that other committees are doing or have done with this. And so I'll stop here. Judy, any additional comments on that before we have questions on the research showcase? I think you're on mute, Judy.
We would love your ideas in terms of the content for the meeting. We want to stick pretty close to our strategic plan, but the I don't know if you mentioned, Todd, the registration for the conference went live today. So people are able to register for TRB. And I talked to TRB today. They don't have any specifics regarding when AME50 meetings or events are, but they said in the near future they will. So keep in touch. We'll certainly communicate that to you as we learn about particular sessions.
Okay, so if anyone wants to present briefly during the committee meeting, let us know, and we can have that as part of our proceedings. The other things that we wanted to bring to your attention is we have an opportunity to organize up to 2 lectern sessions per committee, and from memory in years past, we've done this in some different ways. We a while back used to have more, kind of some of our best papers be presented for lectern sessions that we received, and rather than being included in the posters. The TRB's really moved away from that and wanted the lectern sessions to be more not just directly tied to the papers, but more presentations on key topics or different kind of panel or roundtable type discussions in terms of the format with that. So it's the deadline for submitting those, and Judy and I, along with the other chairs of the committee, will be working on some session ideas for that in the next 2 weeks. But if you have something, and maybe it relates back to some of the topics we've been talking about earlier, and that people have been putting ideas in the chat, such as the climate change issues that Jeanette just mentioned. Reach out to us about that as well, and so we can see about proposing that as part of our a lectern session when Judy and I get back with Bill Anderson about that submittal. So that's another opportunity as far as the annual meeting. And then a side note to that is we will also have a further opportunity to co-sponsor other committee sessions and or workshops that are part of the schedule. I think we're already in the works working on co-sponsoring or supporting a workshop. I believe it's on emergency events, evacuation. The title escapes me, and I should have had it, but that another committee is working on and incorporating issues for persons with disabilities related to transportation during emergency events. Judy, do you recall that a little further?
Yeah, it has to do with ensuring that the voices of individuals with disabilities are accurately reflected in emergency plans. That's what I recall. It was because just making sure that the plans are representative of the true needs and contents of our audiences.
So we'll have that, and we'll have a couple other. We'll see as the as other people reach out to us, or if you, from your work with other committees or following other committees, know of something they're planning, they would have a good tie-in to our committee's area in terms of that overlap. Feel free to bring it to our attention so that we can see if there's a good opportunity to co-sponsor something that is in the works and tie it into our goals and vision strategies there. So any other Judy, anything I missed on points that we wanted to hit for the upcoming annual meeting? Or if not, any questions from folks? I'm glad to see in the chat that the virtual connection is important. So yeah, like I said, we definitely want to do that. Thanks, Kate, for that comment. Any other questions or observations? Okay. Thanks, Yohai. I'll add that note for co-sponsoring with Transportation and Health Committee. Then let me go. I think we're at other items and open discussion. And one thing I wanted to mention here before we open the floor further is I know, and Yohai, I'll meet with, circle back with you and Trevor on this following the meeting, but the upcoming deadline for NCHRP research submittals is November 1st. I believe I was saw an item about that, and so I don't know if we have things that have been in the works before in terms of our research topics, or if people have been working on NCHRP research proposals that they wanted to, that have a accessibility component in the research, either as the key focus or a considerable focus that we would like to see we would like to see it. If you want us to, Judy and I and others, to look at it as a committee and see if we would be able to throw support behind an NCHRP proposal, since that deadline is upcoming in November, the beginning of November. So let us know and to keep us in mind if you're working on that. Other questions or comments or things that Judy and I missed in our rundown of things? The floor is open, one at a time, of course.
I see hand raised.
Yes, go ahead.
Can't tell.
Yeah, that is me, Vanita Murthy. I am on the AME50 Community Resources Impact Committee. We are relatively new and we're looking out for partnerships with other committees. And I believe this would be a good committee to partner with and see what we can offer in terms of partnership. I'm on the newsletter team, but Veronica is the committee chair, and we just completed our strategic plan. And so we would be, I would be happy to take any requests for partnership to Veronica and see if we can move from there. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out.
Others?
Going once. Going twice.
People are quiet today.
Yeah, people are quiet. Everyone's worn out from all the Transat excitement last week, right?
That's right.
Well, okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. We'll, like we were saying earlier, we'll have the presentation as well as the recording from this meeting available on the website for anyone that missed it. We will update that and then circle back with anyone who expressed interest in some of the things we mentioned before. Thanks for indicating your interest in being the TR News Special Issue Reviewer. I will sign you up. So we'll circle back on some of those ideas that were brought up on the various topics we explored today. And if there's anything you think of later in terms of ideas with that or others, of course, such as partnerships with a committee that you're on or involved with, you can always reach out to Judy or I at any time with those ideas. And of course, remember to, if you can, to register for the TRB annual meeting in January. We'll have a lot of exciting research and presented there, and more conversation with more folks as well to keep our initiatives going.
Wonderful. There's bound to be snow in December in DC, so wear warm clothes. Those of you who are from tropical places, it gets cold in DC. I think every year I've been there, there's been a snowstorm. I don't know why that is, but just dress appropriately, and we look forward to your ideas. So
absolutely, being a Texan, the only reason I own a winter coat is to go to TRB, basically. So
it says TRB coat.
Yeah.
That's funny. Nice. Well, thank you, everybody. Be well, be safe, and we appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you
very much.
Good to see everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.